All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Jets Giants show. My name is Gabe. I am your host for tonight. As you guys can see, it is still just me flying solo for the moment. Walt and Jose will be joining us in very soon future episodes, but I'm here to kind of recap with you guys so far what's going on in the New York Giants, New York Jets um, current everything. So thank you for joining us. And before we continue, don't forget to please like, rate, share, and subscribe. Super important that we kind of get that word out of who we are and what we do. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So we are just quickly, I'm just going to quickly recap Hard Knocks. To be honest, unfortunately, during the last two episodes, I kind of came down with whatever seems to be going around. Like I caught like a weird chest cold that turned into bronchitis, that turned into something else, and I was kind of man down for a couple of weeks, and I couldn't come to you guys with the final two episodes recap. But I am here to quickly recap it because I think it was important to kind of finish off with the Hard Knocks overall. I think that we can all be in agreement that this was honestly, I think, the best version of a Hard Knocks, just because of, this is like the real stuff, like everything that happened. Oh, and by the way, of course, Hina might make an appearance, so pardon the meows as she does not like me not giving her attention. But anyway, back to it. Yeah, the Hard Knocks, the off season, I think, is the best version of Hard Knocks that there is. It's the real stuff, it's the real deals happening. I think that there was a lot of excitement being built throughout the show. I think it did a great job of building the excitement for the season coming up, which is what the NFL is doing. I think the NFL is doing an amazing job. Roger Bell is doing an amazing job of kind of like making NFL an all year long and all year round sport, much like some more so than some other sports, right? Because usually as soon as the Super Bowl is over, you kind of go into like this, football withdrawal, and there's nothing really happening until, you have like draft day and so on, of course, and you're just waiting for preseason. But with Hard Knocks and all the social media stuff and kind of making everything so big, making draft day so big, making the combine, something televised, and like very watchable and stuff. Um, I think they're doing an amazing job of keeping us engaged throughout the whole year and really kind of making the off season feel so short. And this Hard Knocks, only built up the anticipation that I have as a Giants fan for the upcoming season, even the preseason games and stuff. The fourth episode was probably one of the best episodes in my opinion because it dealt directly with the push towards draft day. Kind of like getting ready to make their decisions, kind of going through what their game plan is for the draft itself, what their absolutes are, what their not gonna go there, and so on and so forth. Like what their mindset is, coming from like not just Joe Shane, but Dable, Mara as well as Bo and the rest of the staff. It was really cool to kind of see the how draft day is approached from a staff of scouts and stuff. And then going into episode five where we kind of go right into the draft. Episode five was a little bit more of a propaganda episode. It was the last episode of the season, but you can very clearly see that this episode was designed to kind of show all of the roses and the potential this team has and how great this whole team is and stuff, and like where the team is going and where it's headed and stuff, especially with the draft that they had, which they did have an amazing draft, I think, considering who they got, especially Malik Neighbors. And we'll talk a little bit about Malik Neighbors, in a bit, as we get into preseason. But man, like, I cannot, I did not go into Hard Knocks feeling like, I mean, obviously as a Giants fan, I was excited, but I didn't go in there thinking like it was going to be this grand thing. I thought this was just going to be kind of, Hard Knocks, the off season was just like an extra little, whatever, I was still kind of looking forward to the preseason Hard Knocks and the in-season Hard Knocks. Um, but at the end of it, man, I have like no interest to see Caleb Williams and stuff. Like I could care less, especially when you consider that the preseason Hard Knocks last year with the Jets kind of ended up being, nothing. It's a lot of what ifs is what you're watching. Just like, we have a lot of what ifs when it comes to the preseason games. But that preseason Hard Knocks was even more what ifs, because at the end of the day, like everything that happened in preseason, kind of didn't have an effect in this actual season because of what happened in the first game with Aaron Rodgers, and most of the time it's kind of like that, right? Maybe not to the extreme of that injury that happened with Aaron Rodgers, but yeah, it's kind of like that. So the preseason Hard Knocks, it doesn't really have that much substance. A lot of the drama is fabricated. But with the off-season Hard Knocks, the drama wasn't fabricated. These are real deals that need to be made. These are real decisions that need to be made. The decisions were actually already made by the time that we saw it. We're just kind of getting the behind the scenes of those decisions. The drama and the results are absolutely real. Even though, of course, the Giants have, they have final edit, rights and stuff like that. So they get to kind of pick and choose what does go on and off the episodes and stuff. But even with that said, I can't believe like some of the stuff that was even allowed in it, including all the pressure that was being put on Daniel Jones because of how real and true Shane and Dable and crew were being about their, assessment of Jones and where they are and stuff like that, and their real push for a replacement quarterback if he was available there, in the draft. Glad they didn't, because it would have been, I think, Drake May, I believe, is what they were going to end up getting. He doesn't seem to be, proving his mettle up there with the Patriots. Uh, but um, but yeah, I think, this was amazing. I love it, and I can't wait for the season to start. Obviously, preseason just started and stuff like that. And we'll get into that. But yeah, that's kind of my assessment. I can't wait for the next Hard Knocks off season, whatever team that may be. I think that the drama behind the front office decision making and stuff like that, which has a trickle down effect into everything that leads from there, right? Every decision that's made in the off season is going to affect preseason. It's going to affect the performance in the season and so on and so forth. So that's, I think, it's probably, I'm the most excited for the next Hard Knocks off season. So definitely looking out for that. I hope that it's even bigger, so we'll see. Anyway, on to the next thing. So I don't want to jump right into the Giants. um give the Jets a little bit of love before we get to the Giants. So the Jets, it's interesting. The Jets have kind of been a little bit sidelined as far as news goes, and I think a lot of Jets fans would actually kind of appreciate that, considering that like it seems like Aaron Rodgers, as much as he says that he doesn't want all this, like the leaks and all the stuff that goes out there, it kind of seems that he's usually the man at the center of it, you know. So it's kind of interesting to have like, hey, I don't want so much like crap being talked in the media and so on and so forth, but he's kind of the reason that there is drama in the media. So sorry. Um so I think that fans have kind of been enjoying a little bit of reprieve of that, with the light and everything being focused on the Giants. Um but this was a preseason game that was pretty exciting. This felt, granted, it was no number ones, I believe. So it was just a tryout for all the backups, and kind of, obviously a warm up for the coaching staff. But it was kind of an exciting game. It was very back and forth. I thought there was a lot of excitement in the game itself. And I thought that that there was a lot of really good stuff that came out of this game, especially with the Jets. Some bad stuff that I would consider, not terrible stuff, in my opinion. Some of the good is that they got a chance to like really kind of work some of their quarterbacks and their offense and stuff with Peasley, Martinez, and Terrell Taylor, which who didn't have, like, he only had two attempts. He was only there for basically a drive. But what was really outstanding was to see, how well their rushing seems to be. doing, especially because these are their backups, right? So it seems like their approach may be, of rushing yards or running back by committee and stuff, which I think is the way to go. I think the Giants are going to be kind of looking for that since we don't have our star running back anymore, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But it's cool to kind of see a little bit of that because the running back room is going to be really important to kind of alleviate the pressure on Aaron Rodgers, right? He can just hand it off and let the running backs do some work. So this way, Aaron Rodgers doesn't feel too much of that pressure, and it'll make Aaron Rodgers' job easier. Not that it necessarily needs to be or should be. It is Aaron Rodgers. That is why you brought him here. Um, but of course, they want to protect him and see if he can play more than one drive or four plays. So, four downs rather. So there is that. Receiving was okay. It was kind of interesting because for me, well, I the thing. So again, their offense was good. Their defense was a little bit spotty, I think. Although we don't want to discount the Commanders. Um, especially because Hartman looked really good. Not gonna lie, I was very impressed by Hartman. Um, not a lot of not a lot of yards, but I like the composure that he had, the way that he played, the way that he led the offense and stuff. I think that's a QB to look out for and stuff. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it was all on defense, but defense was a little bit spotty. Um, I think that there's once again, like, I didn't get a chance to see the entire game. I'll be completely forthright and honest. I came in the middle of the second quarter, but right away, I kind of felt like there was already some time management issues on the Jets side. Obviously that's going to go to Robert Saleh. Timeout, like times that you should have taken timeouts, maybe not taken timeout or so on and so forth. Um, so I don't know, man. Like I feel like that's still an issue. Now, of course, it's preseason. It's only the first game. Uh, and this is where you're gonna air out all the kinks. Where you should air out all the kinks, so that the first four games of the season are not the real preseason, which it kind of feels like it is. And I think Walt is the one that I mean, I agree with Walt that the first four games can and should be kind of look like preseason because people are still getting the number ones are getting used to getting hit, cadence, timing, and all that stuff. Um, so that's why the preseason games aren't really as important. They're more tryouts than anything. But yeah, this preseason game was cool. I thought it was fun. It was good to see a lot of the depth being played out there, and Jets have had really good depth. So look forward to that for this season again with the Jets. Now on to the Giants. So, oh, sorry, wrong one. Boom. So Giants win 14-3. Not as an exciting or interesting game as the Jets and Commanders who won 20-17. This one's a little bit straightforward, but what was good is that we really kind of like, I mean, it showed in the preseason, like in the team in the team practices. We were owning the Lions the two team practices that we had leading up to this preseason game. We were completely owning them, which is important because before the team practices, we were seeing a bunch of, highlights of Malik Neighbors kind of getting open to receiving and catching everything that he was getting on all of our corners and stuff and all of our defenders. And, you have people saying like, oh, well, that's not, number one corners, or it's just practice. They're not really like trying to defend them, whatever you want to say. But then Malik Neighbors doing what he's doing to the Lions defenders, they're not just letting him get to work, or do whatever he wants. They're trying to stop him. And in the last practice, he went 17 for 18, receptions. And credit goes, in my opinion, to Daniel Jones as well, because obviously you need somebody that's got to throw it up there. And it goes to the synergy that they're having, the chemistry that Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors are having, and I think it's important to note because Malik Neighbor said today. I saw a quote where Malik Neighbor said that they asked him, what is it about Daniel Jones and them that they're getting that chemistry? And Malik had just said that he's just giving Daniel Jones a lot of confidence. He's telling, hey, just throw it anywhere near me. I'll do the rest. He can contort his body to like catch a certain way. He'll bring down the ball, and that showed all in the practices over the last couple weeks, which is giving us a lot of confidence. I think that we're gonna have an awesome season. Interesting enough, Malik actually played in that first preseason game. I think it was 11 targets, zero receptions. And that points to Drew Lock. Drew Lock, who was the quarterback throwing to him, unfortunately did not have a good showing. He was 4 for 10, 17 yards total, and he had an interception. He also, unfortunately, kind of left the game with an oblique strain, and now he's going to be out for several weeks as he nurses that. I don't know if he had that strain and that had an effect on his ability to play, but the truth is that he just did not look great in training camp leading up to this game, and obviously did not look good in this game, and does not have the synergy with Malik Neighbors, with Neighbors oftentimes getting open. So I think that kind of points to the fact that it's not just Malik doing the work. Daniel Jones and Malik are having a really good are developing a really good synergistic relationship, and man, like I think that that's kind of like, obviously every great quarterback has their number one guy, their number one target and stuff like that. And that's really like, the quarterback can't do it on his own. He can't just like he can't throw the ball to himself, right? And Malik Neighbors can't just catch everyone's ball. It's got to be the right person, and of course I think Malik Neighbors is doing I think carrying Daniel Jones by any overthrows or underthrow balls. He's making them work, but of course it's the NFL. Not every ball is going to be a perfect dot to the receiver. um so the fact that he did not have that performance this weekend with Drew Lock kind of goes to show that this isn't just Malik Neighbors, and it is, you know, Daniel Jones, and maybe also the fact that Dable is the one that's running the offense now. And Daniel Jones, as we saw last season, when Dable did take over the offense, despite what he might say, we all very well know that Dable took over the offense a few times, and every time that he did, Daniel Jones responded. All of his best games last season, the few that he played, and I'm talking about like not even best games, best drives, because he didn't even have the day before an entire game. All of his best drives where Dable was the one on the offense, those are the ones that Daniel Jones excelled, and it looks like he kind of needs the right offensive the play caller, as well as somebody that he can count on to maybe bail him out, but also to kind of instill confidence in his game. So, but like I said, it was a pretty straightforward game. We're kind of beating on the Lions from the beginning of practice all the way through this game. The Lions weren't able to get anything going. Again, it is preseason. Let's not forget. Most of the number ones weren't playing, especially for the Giants. But one thing also, DeVito did look pretty good out there. Again, this is the second year of DeVito, and Dable himself has said that DeVito looks like he's coming a little bit more into his own. I think maybe like what he's trying to say is he's maturing more as a quarterback, and as a player and as a leader. I think he had a little bit of that humble pie at the end of last year when when it seemed like he might be getting cut even potentially, and that might have scared him. And now it's like, all right, if I want to stay as at least as a backup and not a practice squad quarterback, he needs to kind of mature a little bit. So, but he had a pretty good game, 8 for 15, 92 yards. Not a lot, obviously, but they did their job out there, and I think I'm excited for like the next game. Now, coming up to the next game, okay, for the Giants, unfortunately, I don't have any news exactly on the Jets. But for the Giants coming up, um, interesting thing, Malik Neighbors today, unfortunately, had to walk off the field during practice. He apparently has maybe rolled his ankle or whatever. It's a lower body injury. Apparently, Giants staff are not concerned, but the truth of the matter is that Malik does all of his work, juking and jiving based on his ankles, and if he has any issues with the ankles, I'm going to be concerned. As our number one and kind of our only weapon, I don't want anything to happen to this man. So if they took him off the field, out of practice, out of an abundance of caution, great. Still something to see. However, moving for the next preseason game, you know, Daniel Jones is slated to play in the next preseason game. So, which is important because if you remember last year, Daniel Jones only played one drive, I believe, in the final preseason game, and now we're going to see Daniel Jones already in the second game, which I think is important. I think it's important that they have some of the number ones playing early on again, like I said, so that the first four games of the season are not the preseason. So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing Malik still make the game. Hopefully it's not there's no injury too serious where they're gonna have to sit Malik, because I would really like to see Daniel Jones and Malik connect. Um, you know, in a preseason game, before we make it to the next one. The next game is going to be on Saturday at 1 o'clock against the Texans. So looking forward to that. And let me take a look at the Jets while I'm here. Uh, Boom. Jets got the Panthers on Saturday at 7. So it's gonna be a New York football Saturday. So kind of looking forward to that. And we'll come back. Hopefully by then, by next week, we'll have the rest of the crew anchoring me here. Again, here talking preseason football with you guys. Really appreciate you guys sticking through, and yep, until next time, from me and Hina, go Giants, go Jets. Peace.